Hello and welcome to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, your weekly dose of the top pro-life news and issues, all from a Catholic perspective. I'm Catherine Hadro in our Washington, D.C. studio. Thanks for joining us.
In this week's show, Ireland votes to repeal its abortion ban. We have Catholic reaction from the Emerald Isle. President Trump has announced Planned Parenthood will be defunded of Title X funds. But what are the next steps? And this.
I worried, well, if we have this big family, what if someone gets sick? You know, what if my children experience suffering?
Author and mother of 6, Jennifer Fulwiler, sits down with us to discuss her new book and how she learned to say yes to both openness to life and her dreams.
But first, our top story, we have a one-on-one interview with a type of politician that's becoming increasingly rare today, a pro-life Democrat. Representative Dan Lipinski, a Catholic Congressman of Illinois, is one of only 3 pro-life Democrats in the House of Representatives. Lipinski narrowly won his Illinois primary earlier this year after abortion advocates lobbied intensely against him. In part 1 of my sit-down interview with Representative Lipinski, we discuss how it's becoming increasingly difficult to be pro-life within the Democratic Party and pressures that he's faced. Representative Dan Lipinski, thank you for your time.
It's good to be with you.
It's so good to be with you. Congressman, in 2016, Democrats for the first time explicitly called for the public funding of abortions in their party platform. The Democratic Party is becoming more and more extreme when it comes to abortion. Do you recognize your party anymore?
Well, it's very unfortunate that the party has moved so far to left on this issue. It's very concerning to me. You know, there was a time where we'll go back to the 1970s where the parties were both pretty evenly split on the issue of abortion. And I think it's bad for the party and bad for the pro-life movement for the Democratic Party to really be in a position right now where they seem to be pushing out anyone who's pro-life from the party, even though about 25 to 30% of Democratic voters in the country say that they are pro-life.
And yet you wouldn't see that reflected in the platform today. And today you are one of 3 pro-life Democrats in the House of Representatives. Is it safe for pro-life Democrats to run in politics anymore?
It's very tough. I have to say it's very tough because the way primaries work, right now the pro-choice side, pro-abortion side, has a lot of power in the primaries, a lot of money. They put a lot of money in against me in my primary to try to defeat me. You don't have that same sort of effort on the pro-life side, especially when it comes to Democratic primaries, and that's something that I think needs to change. I think that's something that the pro-life movement needs to change. We need to have pro-life representatives in both parties. That's good for the pro-life movement. That's why the other side is trying to knock me out. They know what my voice in the Democratic Party means. It's important that we don't give up the Democratic Party. And that's a message that I want everyone who is pro-life to hear, that don't give up on the Democratic Party. If we cede the Democratic Party, it's not good for the pro-life movement.
Looking at your record, Congressman, you have an almost 100% voting record with labor, almost a 100% lifetime with the education lobby, 100% rating with the environmental lobby, 7% lifetime voting record with the NRA. Yet the president of NARAL, Elise Hogue, said you don't have true democratic values. In fact, NARAL lobbied hard against you in your primary race. I want to get your response to that. What do you say to abortion lobbyists who say you're not democratic enough?
Well, it's clear they only have one issue that they really care about, and that cannot define the Democratic Party. We cannot allow it to define what it means to be a Democrat. Again, I think it's bad for the party. I'm going to continue to stand strong. I will always be pro-life, no matter what. And I'm proud to stand in there, proud to be a Democrat, but it's most important thing is that I'm pro-life.
Congressman, have you personally ever been pressured, either by party officials or other members of Congress, to change your stance on abortion?
I think pretty early on that people realized that I wasn't changing. And so no one's ever tried to get me directly to change my position. I understand how others feel about me taking this position. And certainly there have been people, not in Congress, not party leaders. There have been others who have, tried to change me on this issue. But here, they understand they're not going to change me.
Democrats have not held control of the House of Representatives in nearly a decade. Do you think it would benefit the party to embrace pro-life values?
No question about it. There's a really good graph that shows over the last 50 years the number of Democrats in the House and the number of pro-choice Democrats and the number of pro-life Democrats. Pro-choice Democrats has held fairly constant across those 5 decades. Number of pro-life Democrats has gone down significantly. The only time it has, when it's been higher, we've been in the majority, and when it's been lower, we've been in the minority. That has been the difference over the last 5 decades, and I think that's very instructive for the party and party leaders to look at that.
For a reaction, we're joined now by Marjorie Dannenfelser, president of the Susan B. Anthony List. Marjorie, glad to have you here.
Glad to be here, Mrs. Hadro.
Love to hear that. So this is the first time we've been able to interview Congressman Lipinski on our program. First off, how significant has his role been in the pro-life movement, but also on Capitol Hill?
Well, he's been a voice of one crying out in the wilderness for a long time. But he used to be surrounded by a pack of really strong pro-life Democrats. But then after everybody betrayed that pro-life pack, he's the one guy that stood firm when Obama really gave a deal to those Democrats. All of them committed to make sure that there was no funding for abortion in health care. He's the only one in that whole group that stood firm, and his election was vital because it was a stand for pro-life Democrats. It meant that standing firm has great results.
That was a really important race. Marjorie, I speak with so many Catholic voters, as I know that you do too, who say they would want to vote Democrat, but they can't because of their extreme stance on abortion. Wouldn't it be strategically smart for the Democrat Party to embrace pro-lifers?
Without question. I mean, Nancy Pelosi understands that. She has said more than once that this should not be a litmus test any longer in the Democratic Party, really to go back to where there was an ability to allow members to vote their conscience. I mean, it's hard to remember, especially you, because I think you were a little bit younger then, but back in my day, back on Capitol Hill, all of what they used to call the cardinals, the heads of all of the appropriations committees, when the Democrats were in charge of the House, were all pro-life. They're all, except one, strongly pro-life. This is an acceptable and affirming position that they had. It would make a ton of sense, and it would obviously be the right thing to do.
Okay, turning now to another major pro-life story, President Trump has officially announced that Planned Parenthood and other abortion businesses will be cut off from Title X funding. But can you walk us through this timeline? When can we expect this to go into effect?
What will have to happen is it will go to OMB for Office of Management and Budget to analyze. There'll be a comment period that will last a couple of months where we're going to really want people all across the pro-life movement to express their communication to HHS that says, yes, we believe that the integrity of a plan like that ought to exclude abortion. It's good to remember that the statute says that the funding can't go to organizations that support in any way abortion. So after that comment period is closed, then those regulations will be allowed to go into process. They have been upheld by the Supreme Court, so while there might be a challenge, we believe that that will be handled fairly quickly.
Okay, and we'll keep our viewers informed on that.
Yes.
And President Trump made this announcement on Title X officially at the Susan B. Anthony List Gala last week. How significant was his presence there, and what did you make of his speech?
Well, it was historic. That while he did speak at the March for Life, which was a beautiful time for the whole nation, it was very important that he be there in a policy mode, talking about his commitments that he has upheld what he plans to do in the future. His heart, I think, was revealed by bringing up a little girl who had opioid-addicted mother, who was adopted by this beautiful couple, this little girl who plans to run for president one day. So they had a great little tete-a-tete up on the stage together. It was just a beautiful time to come together and celebrate life and talk about what's to come.
Marjorie Dannenfelser, president of the Susan B. Anthony List. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pro-lifers, your calls to the administration have been heard. President Donald Trump has announced a new rule that will cut abortion providers from receiving Title X family planning tax dollars. What this means is Planned Parenthood will be cut off from receiving up to $60 million a year. This new rule, called the Protect Life Rule, directs tax dollars to Title X centers that do not promote or perform abortions, such as the growing number of community and rural health centers that far outnumber Planned Parenthood facilities. This action is exactly what we've been asking for from the Trump administration in the past few weeks. Your great call to action engagement helped lead to this success, which brings us to this week's call to action. Tell President Trump thank you for fulfilling his promise to defund Planned Parenthood of Title X dollars. You can send your message by going to ProLifeWeekly.com. Once you get to ProLifeWeekly.com, all you have to do is type in your basic information. Then you'll be brought to a new page with a thank you letter that's already typed out. Simply click Submit, and your thank you letter will be sent directly to the White House. In recent call to actions, we've been asking the Trump administration to revise the Title X rules, and because of your great engagement, they've listened. Now, let's say thank you to the Trump administration for the Protect Life Rule, because now businesses that perform or promote abortions are cut off from Title X family planning tax dollars. You can send your thank you message simply by going to ProLifeWeekly.com. We turn now to another story. An attorney representing a network of pro-life licensed comprehensive medical clinics threatens legal action after an online video included its image and referenced the clinics as fake crisis pregnancy centers. The attorney representing Marisol Health Clinics sent a letter to Progress Now Colorado last week demanding it remove the clinic's image and name from a video posted online, claiming it's defamatory. Marisol Health provides a full range of women's health care services by licensed medical professionals in Colorado. Catholic Charities of Colorado created the clinics. The Progress Now Colorado video shows 4 different pregnancy centers around Colorado, including Marisol Health, and has text that states crisis pregnancy center staff rarely have any medical training and often lie or refuse to provide accurate information. The vice president for Marisol Health says attacks against life-affirming clinics are troublesome.
It is sending the wrong message to women, and it can potentially prevent the women we are attempting to serve from receiving these outstanding, high-quality services that are delivered in an environment that totally respects their dignity.
In addition to providing medical services, Marisol Health also provides social services, counseling, and resources for patients with low income, mental health issues, or those experiencing domestic violence. We go now to pro-life headlines from around the globe.
Lawmakers in Argentina's lower house say they will vote next month on legislation to legalize elective abortion. The bill would allow elective abortion in the first 14 weeks of pregnancy. President Mauricio Macri has said he opposes abortion, but would not veto the measure if it passes. The vote is expected to be on June 13th.
La Chiesa è per la vita e la sua preoccupazione è che nulla sia contro.
Pope Francis tells Catholic physicians the Church is for life. Speaking to members of the International Federation of Associations of Catholic Physicians at the Vatican on Monday, the Holy Father noted the hardships and difficulties physicians may face if they're faithful to church teaching, particularly when defending life from conception to its natural end. But Pope Francis reminded the doctors they are called to affirm the patient's dignity with his inalienable rights, primarily the right to life. And over 66% of Irish citizens voted to repeal the 8th Amendment last week, an amendment which protects the life of the mother and the unborn child. Several Irish lawmakers have previously said if the 8th Amendment was repealed, they'd propose legislation allowing unlimited abortion up to 3 months into pregnancy and 6 months in cases where there might be a risk to a mother's health. In an interview on Today with Sean O'Rourke on RTE Radio 1, Irish Bishop Kevin Durand said practicing Catholics who voted to repeal the 8th Amendment, intending that abortion would be the outcome, should consider coming to confession, where you would be received with the same compassion that is shown to any other penitent.
We are joined now by Tracy Harkin with EWTN Ireland. She joins us from County Down in North Ireland. Tracy, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Catherine. Good to be with you.
Tracy, it is heartbreaking to see the referendum results with so many voting to repeal the 8th Amendment. How are Catholics and pro-lifers responding over there?
Well, I think heartbreaking is a very good word, Catherine. It's been a very tough few days since the results of the referendum emerged. I think it's been met with a lot of shock and disbelief, not just on the pro-life side, but also those supporting repeal actually were surprised at the extent of support for lifting the constitutional ban on abortion. But it's been a difficult few days. I think the enormity of it is sinking in. But the pro-life movement are determined to work extra hard and to redouble their efforts now, Catherine, in terms of reaching out to women in crisis pregnancy and making sure that Ireland does not follow down that same path as other countries where once abortion's legalised, the rates of abortion increase.
Tracy, it was jarring, though, to see images and video of Irish citizens celebrating this repeal out in the streets, celebrating the killing of the unborn. Can you talk about that and reaction you've noticed from Irish media and from Irish citizens?
Well, this was always a David and Goliath battle, Catherine. The media establishment were extremely supportive of repeal. The pro-choice message went out in the airwaves daily in editorials in the newspapers. So it has been hard to see that. It's been heralded in media as a celebration of women's rights, a celebration of the sort of the Trust Woman slogan, all the slogans that other countries throughout the world have been hearing for the last few decades.
And Tracy, can you provide some clarity for us? Now that the 8th Amendment is repealed, like you mentioned, it doesn't mean abortion is now legal in Ireland. But can you walk us through what is expected to happen next?
Well, before this referendum took place, there was a citizens' assembly, which was supposed to be a consultative process regarding whether or not there was a need for the law to be changed. And during that process, the recommendation was that the law should be changed, that a referendum should be had. And the proposals at that time that the Irish government supported was unrestricted abortion on demand up to 12 weeks. Up to 24 weeks on sort of vague health terms. So the exact legislation has yet to be decided. In the months ahead, that will be expected to go through the Oireachtas. So what's happened is now, once the ban is lifted, it means that there's no impediment now for this government and future governments to legislate. The exact details of that legislation, how far it will go, how liberal it will be, have yet to be absolutely decided. But we are clear that it will be quite a liberal law from what has already been said by leading Irish politicians.
Well, we will continue to keep Ireland in our prayers. Tracy Harkin with EWTN Ireland, thank you for your work.
Thank you, Catherine.
When we come back.
Either you have a full 80-hour-a-week corporate career, or you completely stay home with kids and you do crafts all day. I began to see that the path for us really didn't fit in this either-or paradigm.
Catholic author and mother of 6, Jennifer Fulwiler, tells us how she breaks the mold and learned to embrace both openness to life and her personal passions. Stay tuned as EWTN Pro-Life Weekly continues after this break. We remember a great woman in the Catholic Church this week, Saint Joan of Arc. The 15th century saint led the French army to victory over the English at Orleans. At the age of 19, she was burned alive at the stake and died repeating the name of Jesus. Saint Joan of Arc, whose feast day is May 30th, pray for us. Welcome back to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. I'm Catherine Hadro. Ireland tragically voted last week to repeal its 8th Amendment, paving the way for elective abortion in the predominantly Catholic nation. In this week's Speak Out segment, we take a look at some celebrities who are celebrating this. Here are just a few examples of celebrities cheering for Ireland's abortion ban repeal. Actor Russell Crowe tweeted ahead of the vote, "Nobody's daughter should ever be told she doesn't have authority over her own body. #yes." When the repeal results came in, actress Mindy Kaling tweeted, "Proud of Ireland" for #repealed the 8th. And singer Ellie Goulding had a simple tweet, "This is just wonderful, Ireland." There are more examples of movie stars and musicians voicing support for Ireland's repeal, from Emma Watson to Elton John. It's become the trendy thing to do in the entertainment industry. And it makes a difference. When a star with a large audience and massive platform advocates for abortion, they will influence others. And they will certainly influence voters, like we just saw in Ireland. But the opportunity to speak up and influence others is an opportunity that's never given to the victims here, to the unborn. No, they remain voiceless. That's where you and I come in. We have a responsibility to use our voice and speak up for the unborn. Each of us needs to use our own platform, whether that's your dinner table, a Facebook page, or a TV show. We all have to speak up and defend life. While our culture is being bombarded with pro-abortion messages from celebrities, don't be afraid to put your voice out there, to find your platform and influence people in your circle to affirm life. Even if the world is going the other way now, that's okay. We're not made for this world. And remember, you can do something each and every week to promote life by following our call to action. Go to ProLifeWeekly.com and tell President Trump thank you for cutting Planned Parenthood's Title X tax funding. Mothers today might face this dilemma. Do I say yes to life and prioritize caring for my family, or do I pursue my passions and use my God-given gifts? Our next guest says you can do both. Jennifer Fulwiler is a Catholic mother of 6 young children. In addition to homeschooling her young kids, Fulwiler also hosts a daily 2-hour radio show. A convert from atheism, Jennifer Fulwiler writes about how she learned to say yes to both her family and her personal passions in her new book, One Beautiful Dream. We caught up with the Catholic author when she was in the middle of her East Coast book tour and sat down at Trinity House Cafe in Northern Virginia for this week's Pro-Life Focus. Here with Jennifer Fulwiler, author of the new book, One Beautiful Dream. So good to see you in person and be with you.
I am so happy to finally meet you in person. Yes. It's wonderful.
Yes. Okay, so you are in the middle of your book tour on the East Coast and you're traveling with your husband and your 6 kids, which something that struck me is it's very different than the lifestyle you grew up with.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you and your husband were both single children.
Only children.
Only children.
Yeah. And my dad is an only child. So for example, my paternal grandfather, I was his only grandchild. Wow. So I mean, I come from small family culture. I don't know anything about having a big family.
And yet here you are, a mother of 6 kids, and you're sharing that with the world. What fears, we're just gonna go straight to it.
Let's jump into it.
Right. What were some of your fears as you started to become a mother and started saying yes to life and having these children? What fears did you have coming from a smaller family?
How much time do you have, Catherine? I mean, I had so many. And, one of the things you see in this culture is we have a tremendous fear of life because openness to love, openness to life is openness to suffering, is openness to loss. So I would say that was a big thing. I worried, well, if we have this big family, what if someone gets sick? What if my children experience suffering? So there was definitely that. And also I had this fear that I wouldn't be enough for these children. That if I had 6 kids, I wouldn't be able to give each of them what they need. And also just fears. I don't really have a good temperament for running a household. I am an absolute slob. And so I worried about that. I worried, how am I going to keep up with all of this? I mean, my fears were kind of endless, to be honest.
And it does seem for mothers, there's this like false dichotomy out there, right? It's like you're either a stay-at-home mom or you're a working mom. Yeah, your life, in your book, you really challenge that narrative, don't you?
Yes, I think it's a dated narrative. I think that maybe if you look 40, 50, 60 years ago, there weren't as many options out there in the economy. So if you had a passion, your choice really was kind of work for a corporation 50 hours a week or do nothing and completely stay home. And I think maybe that conversation made sense back then. But that's one of the things I want to share. I mean, we need to update this conversation. Look at all the opportunities with the internet. You know, I know so many moms who feel called to stay home with their kids, but also feel called to use their passion. So maybe they put up a little shop on a website and they just do a little bit of work here and there, using their gifts, you know, maybe selling their paintings or something like that. And I think it's time that we just get rid of the old dated paradigm and get with the times and see how many new options there are out there.
How did you have to rethink, you know, your dream, your vision, and what you thought it meant to have it all?
Oh, yeah. So, you know, coming from a background of lifelong atheism before I became Catholic, I very much was part of the either-or paradigm. Either you have a full, you know, 80-hour-a-week corporate career, or you completely stay home with kids and you do crafts all day, and that was it. And so, yeah, when I started really just thinking and praying and discerning about the right path for our family, I began to see that the path for us really didn't fit in this either-or paradigm. It was something in between. And that's really the conversation I want to start, is we need to rethink what having it all can look like.
And being a mother of 6, you share these anecdotes that I think a lot of our viewers will find very relatable. You're in the grocery store, maybe you're hearing side comments, you're getting side glares of that. How do you respond to that when maybe there's someone, whether you know them or not, who isn't supportive of you having a large family?
Yeah, one of the things I really try to remember, this is not easy for me, but a lot of times when I get the bad looks or whatever, I have learned that maybe that person isn't intending to convey what they thought. Just the other day, there was a woman who was glaring at me en masse. My kids were not being that great, to be honest. I had, you know, my little ones were being fussy, and she was just glaring at me. And at the end of mass, I turned around, and she was clearly about to engage with me. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm ready to fight. I'll tell her a thing or two. And she leaned in and she said, I've just been waiting for an opportunity to tell you, your family is so beautiful. But I was sure that she was sitting there judging me and super angry. So that's the first thing I do, Catherine, is try to remember that a lot of times when I perceive that someone is judging me, I'm way off. And in fact, they might be looking at my family in admiration or, you know, out of respect. So I need to remember that. But when I do get, you know, the negative comments, I just try to remember, hey, that's where I was 20 years ago. I would have been that person making that comment. So I'm not always good about this, but I try to just respond with humor and not take it too seriously and think, who knows, maybe that person will end up having 6 kids too. You never know.
We'll be airing part 2 of our interview with Jennifer Fulwiler in the coming weeks, so keep a lookout for that. That's it for this edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. Until next time, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach us at prolifeweekly@EWTN.com. Remember, life is a gift. Your life is a gift. God bless.